Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Prasar Bharati. Coming up in the next hour. Israel expands ground offensive in Gaza. Phone lines, internet connections slowly returning after more than a day of almost total communications blackout. UN Security Council plans to hold another round of meeting on Israel-Hamas conflict. United Auto Workers, Stellantis reach tentative deal to end strike. No deal with General Motors yet. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi shares his thoughts with countrymen in monthly radio program. Appeals people to be vocal for local and make India self-reliant. In sports, India recover after early blows in their World Cup match against England in Lucknow. Israel has launched the second phase of its war against the Palestinian group Hamas with a ground operation in Gaza. Israeli Defense Forces attacked buildings they said were used as meeting points by Hamas. Israel has blockaded Gaza for over 3 weeks in retaliation to the October 7th attack by Hamas into its soil. As the Israel-Hamas war enters its 24th day, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that this next stage of war will be long and difficult. He also vowed that every effort would be made to free the hostages held by Hamas.
More of our ground forces entered into Gaza in the development of the stronghold of Evil. This is the second phase of the war, whose goals are clear: the destruction of the military and governmental capabilities of Hamas and the return of the hostages home. At every stage until now, and at every stage from now on, we will exhaust every possibility to return our abducted brothers and sisters to their families. The war inside the Gaza Strip will be difficult and long, and we are prepared for it.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday took a jab at his intelligence chiefs on the X platform, saying they never warned him Hamas was planning its wide-scale attack on October 7, but later retracted his comments and issued an apology. The remarks posted on X caused a political uproar and a rift within the war cabinet of Netanyahu, who has drawn public ire for not taking responsibility over intelligence and operational failures related to Hamas's rampage through southern Israel. While top officials from the heads of the military and the Shin Bet domestic spy service to his finance minister have all acknowledged their failures, Netanyahu has not. He has only said that there would be time to ask tough questions, including of himself, after the war. Israeli officials have said events leading up to and including the handling of the Hamas attack itself would be investigated, but that current focus was on the conflict. On the contrary, all security officials, including the head of Army Intelligence and the head of the Shin Bet, estimated that Hamas was deterred and interested in an arrangement. Gazan skies filled with thick black and white smoke on Sunday morning as loud explosions were heard over the enclave. Gaza's besieged residents faced a near-total communications and internet blackout as Israel's warplanes dropped bombs and its troops and armor pushed into the Hamas-ruled enclave. The disruption of communications impacted rescue operations. However, several Palestinian media outlets reported early on Sunday that phone and internet communications were returning gradually in Gaza. Well, joining me on the broadcast is Dr. S. Samuel C. Rajiv, Associate Fellow at the Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis. With us, sir. First of all, I would like to welcome you on the broadcast. Now, how do you see Israel's strategy in this war, and what do you get out of it? First airstrikes, and then intensifying them, and then ground offensive getting into action?
Yes, now it's been more than 2 weeks since the original, Hamas terrorist attack on October 7th. So for the past 22 days now, the IDF has been striking ground targets,
Yeah.
specifically in northern Gaza, where the IDF alleges the Hamas terrorist infrastructure is present. So now I think that as the Prime Minister Netanyahu has indicated recently, they've entered the second stage.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of days ago, they have done a couple of minor ground incursions.
Yeah, yeah.
The Israeli government and the IDF have said that a ground invasion is necessary to achieve the war aims, which as of now is the elimination of the Hamas terrorist organization. So yes.
Okay. Israelis continuously urging Palestinians from Gaza to move to south uh, because they say that south is safe, but bombardments are also happening in south. So do you think the Palestinians are safe in south or comparatively safe?
Well, I think the IDF has indicated that their focus of operations right now is in the north of the Gaza Strip,
Yeah.
where the Gaza city is located,
Mm-hmm.
and where Hamas terrorist infrastructure is apparently underground.
Mm-hmm.
There in the immediate aftermath of the terrorist strikes, also the IDF also publicly stated that the north of the Gaza Strip population have to move to the south. But as you've indicated, there are some airstrikes which are also happening in the south of the Gaza Strip,
Yeah, yeah.
but not as in quantity or number
Yeah.
as in the north of the Gaza Strip,
Correct.
obviously. So as of now, the focus of the IDF operations is in the north of the Gaza Strip.
All right. Now, as the war escalates between Israel and Hamas, what's your take on Israel's diplomatic relations with countries, especially in the Middle East?
Well, that's an important question because I think, in the aftermath of the, Abraham Accords of 2020, Israel established diplomatic ties with some of the countries in the region with which it did not have, diplomatic relations prior, including the United Arab Emirates, including Bahrain. Now, as we speak, I think the Bahrain foreign minister is either visiting or is supposed to visit Ramallah,
Hmm.
which is a significant development. In the aftermath of the October 7th terrorist strikes, UAE and Bahrain were two of the countries which did not, explicitly, condemn the, Israeli actions. They have actually condemned Hamas terrorist action also,
Hmm.
unlike other countries like Turkey and others, other sheikdoms in the neighborhood, which have explicitly, pointed out that even Saudi Arabia have pointed out that the Israeli occupation was responsible for the terrorist attacks, which countries like Bahrain and UAE have not. So with this, analysts are saying that the visit of the Bahrain foreign minister to Ramallah is significant,
Hmm.
and the UAE also is part of the the Abraham Accord partner, diplomatic partner with Israel. Tomorrow and Monday, it has called for a special session of the UN Security Council. We should know that UN Security Council has failed to pass a resolution 4 times. The UN General Assembly has passed a resolution, but not the UN Security Council.
Yeah.
So at tomorrow's meeting also will be crucial, and we have to see how that will turn out. Yes.
Okay, okay. Coming on to what you've just said regarding the UN Security Council, they are also holding meeting tomorrow. How beneficial will this meeting be as far as the Hamas and Israel war is concerned?
Yes, I think if you look at the example of the UN General Assembly resolution, which was passed, I think yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
it was passed obviously with about more than 120 countries voting in favor. India abstained, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but Israel and the UN have a very we can call it an inimical relationship. Israel even has even called for the resignation of the UN Secretary General. At the UN Security Council, obviously, the top five, veto-wielding powers have the main say, and the Americans obviously and the Israelis have the full backing of the Americans. The Russians and the Chinese can be expected to be critical of Israel's actions. In fact, China has said that Israel's reaction to what happened on October 7 is beyond the concept of self-defense, and has pointed out the civilian casualties in the Gaza Strip. So and France also, an important note, voted in favor of the resolution at the UN General Assembly. Most of the Western countries voted against the resolution or they abstained, but France voted in favor of the resolution. So it's a very interesting to see. But obviously, we cannot expect any resolution critical of Israel, because unless you have full consensus and there's no veto wielding powers, there's no resolution can be adopted. So obviously we should not expect a resolution critical of Israel to be adopted tomorrow also, but we should wait and watch how things pan out. Yes.
All right, sir, stay with us. I'll get back to you. Right now, we've been joined by DD India correspondent Amritpal Singh from Jerusalem. Amritpal, connectivity slowly returning to Gaza, and Israel says war now in second stage. What's the latest there, and what's your assessment of where you are standing right now?
Well, that's right. The war has entered what they are calling the second stage. Basically, their forces have gone in. Now they are closing in on Hamas from all three. From aerial, from sea, from land. They've done a beach landing in the East Mediterranean beach or the coastline that Gaza Strip has with the Mediterranean Sea. Their forces are inside. They have taken a few tanks inside. Benjamin Netanyahu says that now they'll go to the next stage in a few days after assessing the situation. Basically, what he means is that they will go in for a full-fledged ground assault. While their forces are fighting on the ground, they are pounding, bases of Hamas through aerial bombing and also through artillery fire from the Israeli territory. What they're basically, as the military operates, the artillery clears the way, fires into there. Their attack helicopters and jet planes bomb the area. Then their infantry moves in and their armored moves inside. So that's how they are going. They've struck Al-Shifa Hospital. Red Crescent just did a briefing a little while back and said that they've been told by Israeli authorities to evacuate Al-Quds Hospital. The Israelis blame the Hamas from operating from inside hospital, saying that they are operating from inside the hospital and therefore they need to strike those places. They are admitting that they did strike Al-Shifa. Meanwhile, the UN chief, who is in Kathmandu right now, said that the situation is deteriorating by the hour. So the death count, if the Gazan health ministry is to be believed, the Hamas's health ministry is to be believed, is above 8,000 dead and over 22,000 injured. So that is really what the situation inside the Gaza Strip is. Even while all this goes on, there are raids being conducted inside West Bank. A lot of arrests have been made. 700 people arrested from West Bank. And Israel says they've hit 450 targets in the last night alone inside the Gaza Strip. So that
definitely seems like the situation is certainly critical. Amritpal, a lot of Hamas activity takes place underground. So is there any evidence the Israeli bombardment is damaging those tunnels?
Could you repeat your question again?
Yes, definitely. Amritpal, I was just saying that a lot of Hamas's activity takes place underground. Is there any evidence that Israeli bombardment is damaging those tunnels where Hamas is hiding right now?
Yes, there are a lot of there is a huge tunnel network that the Hamas has built, about 1,300 tunnels, 500 kilometers long tunnels connecting, some of them opening into Israel, some of them opening into Egypt. So Hamas obviously operates, it's kept its cache of arms and weapons inside these tunnels and is inside the tunnels. If you look at the statement of the Israeli Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, he said yesterday that the earth shook from beneath and we were above it. So basically they are, trying to bombard tunnels as much as they can. But to achieve their stated military objective of decimating the Hamas completely, they will have to get into close combat. That means they will probably either have to gas the tunnels and then flush out the Hamas over ground and then get into close combat and kill them, or they will have to go inside the tunnels. Obviously, they are not revealing their military strategy to us, when we talk to them, but they say we have a military strategy in place, and we will take what I understand by talking to a lot of people off camera as well, is that they are trying to, weaken and the Hamas as much as they can before they get into close combat, so that they can, their soldiers can engage with a much weakened Hamas. Finally, they'll have to enter the tunnels.
Okay,
yes.
okay, Amritpal, stay with us. We also have Dr. S. Samuel C. Rajiv with us. Sir, the Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi said that Zionist regime crossed red lines. Do you see this war between Hamas and Israel, the repercussion of which is a full-fledged war in the Middle East?
Well, as of now, I think the war has been contained. Israel and the IDF obviously are striking targets beyond the Gaza Strip. The IDF has struck targets in Lebanon. It struck targets in Syria also. In fact, Syrian ammunition dumps.
Yeah.
Earlier, it has struck targets as far as even Iraq, obviously, and it has carried out assassination attempts inside Iran also.
Yeah.
But as of now, I think as the Allied force presence is getting buttressed in the Eastern Mediterranean,
Yeah.
It's difficult to predict if the conflict will expand to involve other countries like Iran. But obviously, Iran and it's the groups that it supports, like the Hezbollah and others, are itching to get into the conflict. The Hezbollah obviously has a greater inventory of rockets, which are longer range rockets than even Hamas. So Israel is concerned about the northern, the territory, the group on the northern borders, which is the Hezbollah. But I don't see Iran directly, getting involved, in the conflict. Yes.
Okay, stay with us, sir. Amritpal, any updates on humanitarian aid which is being sent to Gaza?
The update is that humanitarian aid, and that's a small glimmer of hope, if I can underline the small part of it, that trucks are going on despite the intensified military campaign and the bombing by Israel. Trucks are going inside. The agreed number was 20.
Yeah.
Not every day 20 trucks go in. Some day 8 trucks go in, some day 14 trucks go in. There have been days when 20 trucks have gone in. The UN continuously is saying that the aid is much less than what is required. They put the figure at 20 trucks per day. That's the kind of humanitarian aid and relief material that's required, which includes food, water. Water is over there. They are, because of fuel shortages, their desalination plants are not working, so they're drinking very, very high salty water, which is basically non-drinkable water from non-drinkable sources. Now, apart from the shelling and with the hospitals overwhelmed, if waterborne diseases spread, then you have another, the catastrophe goes to another level. But as I said, the aid is going in every day through the Rafah crossing with Egypt, and there are a lot of trucks lined up at Rafah to go in. But the UN chief said that Israel has to relax the monitoring mechanism a bit, because Israel is monitoring what is going in, and so that is causing a lot of delays, which the UN chief says that is the situation is declining by the hour. So to answer your question, yes, aid is going in.
All right, with this, Amritpal Singh and Dr. S. Samuel C. Rajiv, thank you, both of you, for joining in. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said the escalation in Israel's military assault on Gaza surprised him after it appeared there was a growing international consensus around the need for a humanitarian pause in the conflict. In a statement, the UN chief said instead of the pause, he was surprised by an unprecedented escalation of the bombardments and the devastating impacts in conflict hit Gaza. He repeated a call for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire for the delivery of aid. Military helicopters flew over Israel's southern city of Ashkelon on Sunday morning, which lies just under 20 kilometers from the Gaza Strip. Israel has tightened its blockade and bombardment Gaza for 3 weeks since Hamas's devastating attack. Israeli authorities said that at least 1,400 Israelis were killed in the deadliest day of the nation's 75-year history. Israeli army spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Haggerty said that Israel's ground operation into the Hamas-run Gaza Strip was gradually expanding and was going according to plan.
The ground fighting in the northern Gaza Strip continues. We are progressing through the stages of war according to plan. We gradually expand the ground operation and scale of forces in the Gaza Strip. The ground operation is complex and involves risks for our forces too. We will do everything in our power from the air, sea and ground to ensure the safety of our forces and to achieve the war's objectives.
And as Israel-Hamas war rages on and aid supplies to the besieged Gaza Strip dwindle, displaced Palestinians are being forced to take shelter underneath makeshift tents at Khan Yunis. Up till now, more than 1.4 million Gazans have fled their homes for temporary shelters. Meanwhile, Israel has once again warned the Gazans to vacate the area for their own safety. The United Nations Security Council plans to meet on Monday to discuss the conflict between Israel and Hamas. The UN Security Council earlier failed in its attempt to stop the war in Gaza as its members were unable to approve either the United States resolution calling for humanitarian pauses or Russia's calling for an immediate ceasefire. Earlier on Friday, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, which made no mention of Hamas by an overwhelming majority. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi shares his thoughts with the people of the country and abroad in Mann Ki Baat program. Seventh edition of Joint Military Exercise Kazind 2023 to take place from 30th of October to 11th of November. One person died and around 36 people injured in a series of blasts in Kerala's Kochi city.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. The G7 meeting of trade ministers commenced in Osaka, Japan on October 28. Japan's Minister for Foreign Affairs addressed the opening session of the meeting. She also addressed another session-themed outreach session for enhancing supply chain resiliency. The outreach session was attended by 5 invited countries that included Australia, India, Indonesia, Chile and Kenya. 3 international organizations, World Trade Organization, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, as well as representatives from industries of the G7. India's Minister of Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs and Food and Public Distribution and Textiles Piyush Goyal attended the summit. In a social media post, the minister shared details about India's stand on issues related to both global and regional situations in the summit. The minister has reiterated India's firm commitment to free and fair trade, balancing equitable global growth with sustainable development goals. Speaking at the outreach session for enhancing supply chain resilience at the G7 trade ministers meeting, Piyush Goyal also highlighted the need for collaboration across key areas for sustainable and inclusive global growth. The G7 industrial countries have demanded an immediate repeal of import restrictions on Japanese food items. This is a reference to China's blanket suspension of Japanese fish imports 2 months ago, when Japan started leaking wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear power plant into the Pacific. The G7 trade ministers, in a statement following their meeting in Osaka, Japan on Sunday, condemned the act as China's increasing use of trade pressure without mentioning the country specifically. India's Trade and Commerce Minister held a meeting with Japan's Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, Nishimura Yasutoshi, on the sidelines of the G7 Trade Ministers meeting in Osaka. Both leaders deliberated on adding further impetus to India-Japan trade and investment ties across diverse sectors. The Indian Trade Minister also held simultaneous meetings with his Australian counterpart, Director General of WTO and Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and senior trade and investment representative from Japan. India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has discussed the progress of India-EU free trade agreement negotiations with European Commission's Executive Vice President Valdis Dombrovskis on the sidelines of the G7 trade ministers meeting in Osaka. Piyush Goyal also held talks with leaders of Japan and Australia and urged governments of G7 nations to collaborate on a regulatory framework to ease the movement of supply chains and facilitate cross-border trade. Indian Minister of Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal met French Minister for Foreign Trade today on the sidelines of G7 Summit of Trade Ministers in Japan's Osaka. The two ministers engaged in a strategic discussion to bolster the thriving economic ties between India and France. The leaders also explored various avenues to enhance this bilateral partnership, focusing on trade, commerce and investment. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi today shared his thoughts with the people of the country and abroad in the Mann Ki Baat program. This was the 106th episode of the monthly radio program. Sharing his thoughts, Prime Minister Modi appealed people to be vocal for local ahead of festivals.
हमारे त्योहारों में हमारी प्राथमिकता हो वोकल फॉर लोकल और हम मिलकर उस सपने को पूरा करें। हमारा सपना है आत्मनिर्भर भारत। इस बार ऐसे प्रोडक्ट से ही घर को रोशन करें जिससे मेरे किसी देशवासी के पसीने की महक हो, मेरे देश के किसी युवा का टैलेंट हो, उसके बनने में मेरे देशवासियों को रोजगार मिला हो, रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी की कोई भी आवश्यकता हो, हम लोकल ही लेंगे।
Prime Minister also remembered the great Saint Mirabai and said today, we can see the potential of women power in every area and their achievements are being appreciated everywhere.
आज जीवन का कोई ऐसा क्षेत्र नहीं जहां हमें नारी शक्ति का सामर्थ्य देखने को नहीं मिल रहा हो। इस दौर में जब हर तरफ उनकी उपलब्धियों को सराहा जा रहा है तो हमें भक्ति की शक्ति को दिखाने वाली एक ऐसी महिला संत को भी याद रखना है जिसका नाम इतिहास के सुनहरे पन्नों में दर्ज है। देश इस वर्ष महान संत मीराबाई की 525वीं जन्म जयंती मना रहा है। वो देश भर के लोगों के लिए कई वजहों से एक प्रेरणा शक्ति रही है।
The Indian Army and Indian Air Force contingent comprising 120 personnel departed for Kazakhstan on Sunday to take part in the 7th edition of Joint Military Exercise Kazin 2023. The exercise will be conducted at Kazakhstan from 30th of October to 11th of November. Let's now take a look at other stories making news. One person died while more than 20 were injured in a series of blasts in a convention center in Kerala's Kochi city. Eyewitness said they heard about 3 to 4 explosions from center of the hall, where thousands of members of Jehovah's Witnesses had gathered for a meeting. Also post the incident, India's Home Minister Amit Shah spoke to State's Chief Minister to further take stock of the situation. Under the Amrit Kalash Yatra carried out for the nationwide Meri Mati Mera Desh campaign, nationwide volunteers arrived in New Delhi with their Amrit Kalash, carrying soil from their regional areas. The soil carried by These volunteers will be used to plant Amrit Vatika near India Gate in the national capital. And Delhi's air quality deteriorated to very poor category on Sunday morning. The city's 24-hour average air quality index stood at 309 following the cases of stubble burning reported in the surrounding states. A layer of smog was also seen over Mumbai with the AQI exceeding 130. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Over 30 people are killed and 63 injured in horrific car crash in Egypt. Former US Vice President Mike Pence announces withdrawal from presidential race. From sharing date of birth, identical twins in Sri Lanka shared the stage at Miss and Mr. Twins 2023, held in Colombo.
Welcome to Jaipur.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Siddharth Bhardwaj, and let's take a look at the headlines once again. Israel expands ground operation in Gaza. Netanyahu says defeating Hamas is existential test for Israel. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi shares his thoughts with countrymen in monthly radio program, appeals people to be vocal for local and make India self-reliant. In sports, India recover after early blows in their World Cup match against England in Lucknow. Russia on Saturday said its forces shot down several Ukrainian fighter jets, while Ukraine claimed hitting Russia's artillery system, according to official briefings from the two countries. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that its forces have repelled multiple attacks by the Ukrainian army and shot down Ukrainian fighter jets and multiple drones. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian armed forces continued their offensive operations and launched multiple airstrikes on Russian military personnel and hit their artillery systems and other targets. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is on a visit to the Himalayan nation of Nepal. This is Guterres' first visit to Nepal after taking charge of the office. During the visit, Secretary General Guterres held meetings with Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal. The key agenda of his visit to Nepal is climate change and the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Guterres will also be visiting multiple base camps to see the impact of climate change. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, after meeting with Nepal's Prime Minister, expressed condolences to the families of Nepalese students killed in Hamas attack on Israel and also condemned Hamas for carrying out humanitarian attacks.
I extend my deepest condolences to the families of the 10 Nepalese students killed in the terror attacks by Hamas in Israel on 7 October. I will continue to insist on the immediate and unconditional release of all the hostages in Gaza. and I repeat my utter condemnation of the appalling attacks perpetrated by Hamas. There is no justification ever for the killing, injuring, and abduction of civilians.
DD India's special correspondent Shweta Singh joins us from Kathmandu. Shweta, what's the latest there?
Hi Siddharth, UNSG as he met Prime Minister of Nepal today, along with he is presently meeting Nepali Congress Chief Deoba and KC Oli also. So meeting the high officials here, and today as he met Prime Minister, they gave a statement to media. He actually condemned the Hamas attack in Israel, and Nepalese student had died there. Moreover, this visit was mostly for seeing the peace process, peace accord that had been signed between Maoist and the Nepali government in 2006. So he was overlooking that, along with seeing Nepal's in sustainable development goal, how it is progressing. Because you see, Nepal plans to leave the list of LDC country by 2026. And Nepal has a plan to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal by 2030. Having this in view, he was here to see how climate change is affecting the community here residing in Nepal. For this purpose, tomorrow he is going to Namche, that is the closest village to Everest base camp. And then his visit will be to Pokhara, where he will be visiting Annapurna base camp to see how climate change is affecting Himalayas, and local community is being affected, and how it can be mitigated. After that, he will be visiting Lumbini, that is a birthplace of Siddharth Gautam. So after this event, he will be again addressing Federal Parliament on Tuesday. So this will be like a joint session where he will be addressing all the stakeholders how to mitigate the climate change impact on Himalayas. Along with that, you see, so basically today it was more on peace accord. How he stressed on Nepal getting transitional justice. So he stressed how people of Nepal now can get full justice, because if you see, in 2006, there was a creation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which emphasized on the people who died, who disappeared without any trace. To give justice to those families, this commission was made. This bill was tabled in Parliament recently. But it have not yet been acted. So Maoist people are stressing it to get it finalized, because there were many people who fought for struggle in Nepal to bring freedom, to bring democracy in Nepal. To just give justice to them, he stressed on this portion today in the statement. So I think the peace accord and achievement of sustainable development goal was main target what Mr. Antonio Guterres has highlighted.
Shweta, apart from climate change, what all are the issues that are likely to be taken up here by Antonio Guterres?
Siddharth, as I told, it is like peace accord being highlighted today, because even Pushpa Kamal Dahal was very apt in saying we are very keen in moving forward. And working together with United Nations. And you see, to achieve a sustainable development goal, he again and again stressed on Nepal achieving it by 2030. And as you know, Nepal is in a least developed country list now. So the Nepalese government is planning to work hard to bring Nepal out of this list by 2026. So basically, apart from the SDG, it was and climate change, it was peace accord, because people really need justice here. The people who have been disappeared.
On that note, thank you so much, Shweta, for joining in. Former US Vice President Mike Pence has decided to halt his 2024 campaign in the Republican presidential race. Mike Pence ended the presidential campaign for the White House after struggling to raise money and gain traction in the polls. Pence made the announcement while speaking at the Republican Jewish Coalition Summit in Las Vegas on Saturday afternoon. Pence is the first major candidate to leave a race that has been dominated by his former boss turned rival Donald Trump. After extensive negotiations, automotive giant Stellantis has reached a new tentative labor agreement with the striking United Auto Workers Union in the U.S. Nearly 14,000 UAW workers who were on strike at two Stellantis assembly plants and several parts distribution centers in Michigan and Ohio have been told to end their strike and return to work. U.S. President Joe Biden has applauded Stellantis and UAW for reaching an agreement. The deal comes after the union and Ford Motor announced a tentative agreement on a new contract. The deals include many of the similar terms, including a 25% general wage increase. Meanwhile, UAW has expanded its strike at General Motors plant in Spring Hill, Tennessee.
Today, we reached a tentative agreement with Stellantis. Today is the 44th day of our stand-up strike. 44 days. We called it the stand-up strike as a tribute to the sit-down strike, which built our great union almost 90 years ago. The sit-down strike showed the incredible power of regular working-class people to fight for economic justice and win big.
In a monumental turn of events, the Writers Guild of America made significant strides towards resolving its 148-day strike, one of the biggest, longest standoffs in Hollywood's history. After weeks of intense negotiations, the WGA reached a tentative agreement on a new contract with entertainment companies. The tentative deal, a result of extensive discussions between WGA and the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, addresses several crucial issues raised by the writers, while the exact language of the contract is yet to be released. And one of the stars of smash hit TV sitcom Friends, Matthew Perry, passed away at 54. The actor was found dead in a hot tub on Saturday in his Los Angeles home. The actor has been widely known as Chandler Bing from his famous character in Friends. Police cordoned off the street where Matthew Perry was found dead. The Los Angeles Police Department's robbery homicide detectives are investigating the incident. Many Hollywood stars took to X and reacted on the deaths of Perry. In a tragic incident, at least 32 people have been killed and more than 60 injured in a crash involving multiple vehicles in Egypt. The incident occurred in the morning and involved a bus and several cars bound from Cairo on the main desert road in Beira Governorate. The crash involved a passenger bus and several cars, some of which caught fire. An oil leak from one vehicle caused the collision, which then spread to other cars nearby. Ambulances rushed to the scene to transfer the injured to hospital. In the tragic incident in Kazakhstan, death toll rises to 42 after mine fire on Saturday as search for 4 miners is underway. Operator ArcelorMittal Termito, the local unit of the Luxembourg-based steelmaker, claimed 206 of 252 people at Kostenko mine had been evacuated and 18 people had sought medical attention. A countrywide dawn-to-dusk strike called by the main opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party protesting alleged attack on its Saturday's grand rally in Dhaka, Bangladesh, is underway. A bus assistant burned to death after the bus was set on fire by miscreants in Dhaka's Demra area early on Sunday. Meanwhile, the detective branch of police detained BNP Secretary General Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir from his Gulshan residence on Sunday morning. Mexican National Guard troops began clearing debris from the streets of Acapulco midtown after Hurricane Otis battered the Mexican coastal city and flattened homes. The death toll from Hurricane Otis has risen to 39 and at least 10 people are reported missing. Officials fear the toll may rise even further, adding that storm caused devastation worth billions of dollars, while more than 8,000 armed forces staff have been deployed to clear the debris left behind. Authorities claim Otis has been the most powerful storm ever to strike Mexico. It even caught forecasters by surprise, gathering strength with unexpected speed before it came ashore, surpassing initial predictions. Now, as Hurricane Otis caused devastation across Mexican city of Acapulco, thousands of surviving residents are struggling to get food, water and fuel supplies. The storm had destroyed power and supply lines as well as which caused severe problems for the locals. Also, people were seen standing in long queues at fuel stations in Acapulco amid the fears of fuel shortages. The Category 5 hurricane hammered the Mexican city last week, causing widespread devastation, flooding thoroughfares, tearing roofs from residences and hotels, submerging vehicles and several communication, road and air connections. Let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. An Iranian teenage girl injured weeks ago in a mysterious incident on Tehran's metro while not wearing a headscarf has died. Yerevan had been pronounced brain dead last week after she fell into a coma on October 1st. The death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini in the custody of morality police last September sparked months of anti-government protests that spiraled into the biggest show of opposition to Iranian authorities in years. Iran has denied that Yerevan was hunt after a confrontation with officers enforcing the mandatory Islamic dress code in the Tehran metro. Drivers waited in long lines at various service stations throughout Argentina due to fuel shortages. The government attributes the shortage partly to tourism as well as rumors of possible price hike following the last week's presidential election, adding that shipments are on the way with the hopes of easing shortages in near future. Dozens of revelers in disguise paraded through the streets of Key West, Florida to mark the 2023 Fantasy Fest Halloween celebrations. The masquerade is one of the highlights of 10-day Halloween festival featuring costume theme events, competitions and Fantasy Fest parade. Identical twins from all over Sri Lanka competed for the titles of Miss and Mr. Twins 2023 in the capital, Colombo. The beauty pageant was the first of its kind in the country. Winners will represent Sri Lanka at the Global Miss and Mr. Twins Beauty Pageant to be held in Colombo in mid-April 2024. The event expects 4,000 twins to compete in the global pageant, which will feature contestants from more than 50 countries. Still to come on DD India News Hour. All updates from India-England clash from the ICC ODI World Cup 2023 in Lucknow. Para-Asian Games 2023 conclude on a thunderous 111 medal haul. And South Africa beat New Zealand 12-11 to win a record 4th Rugby World Cup.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj and time now for sport. Well, let's talk about cricket now. On to ICC Cricket World Cup, where hosts India are taking on England in Lucknow. India make recovery after suffering early blows in England must-win clash. Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul stage India's comeback after Gill, Kohli and Iyer fell cheaply. Till the latest updates came in, India were 163 runs for the loss of 4 wickets after 36 overs. Earlier, captain Joss Buttler won the toss and opted to field. Indian players continue to showcase their magnificent performances in the 37th National Games being held in Goa. The Maharashtra team has performed brilliantly so far and is at the first place in the points table by winning 39 gold medals. Haryana players have won 17 gold medals so far. Services have won 11 gold medals as well. Travis Head's rapid 100 trumped Rachin Ravindra's gallant 116 as Australia survived late drama against New Zealand before winning the highest scoring match in World Cup history by 5 runs to close in on a semi-final spot. Head smashed 109 win his first match of the World Cup and forged a breakneck 175-run opening stand with David Warner, who also scored 81 to propel Australia to a commanding 388 all-out. Ravindra led New Zealand's spirited reply with his second 100 of the tournament, and Daryl Mitchell made 54 to keep the 2019 runners-up in the hunt. Australia regained control after Ravindra fell in the 41st over, but James Neesham injected fresh drama into the contest with a never-say-die 58, even though New Zealand ended just short of their target on 383 for 9. Needing just 19 runs off Mitchell-Stark's final over, New Zealand milked 13 runs of the first 4 legitimate deliveries to keep the heat on Australia. Indian para-athletes made history by finishing their Hangzhou Asian Para Games campaign on Saturday with a record 111 medals, the most for the country in any major international multi-sport event. The Indian para-athletes won 29 gold, 31 silver and 51 bronze medals at the Hangzhou Para-Asian Games. India finished 5th in the medal count. Praising Indian athletes, India's Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports, Anurag Singh Thakur, said the historic performance of our athletes in the Para-Asian Games shows India's growing power in sports. Indian para-athletes have created history with 111 medals, including 29 gold medals. Previously, India had won 14 medals in the 2010 edition, 33 in 2014 and 72 in 2018.
फिर हुई मेडल्स की बौछार, अब की बार पैरा में भी 100 पार। तो जब मैंने 100 पार का नारा दिया था एशियन गेम्स के लिए, तो सबने कहा था कैसे होगा, 70 मेडल नहीं आए थे पिछली बार। और देखिए पिछली बार एशियन गेम्स में 70 मेडल थे और पैरा गेम्स में 72 थे, और अब की बार 50% ज़्यादा मेडल हमने जीते हैं, यानी कि दोनों में ही 100 पार किया है। ये मोदी सरकार की नीतियां हैं, जो प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी ने खेलो इंडिया अभियान, टॉप जैसी योजनाएं चलाई और साथ ही साथ खेलों का बजट लगभग 3 गुना ज़्यादा किया। तो मुझे लगता है भारत का खेलों में अच्छा करना वो भी, और भारत में लगभग 100 लाख करोड़ रुपए का आधारभूत ढांचा अगले कुछ वर्षों में बनेगा, तो हमारे लिए बहुत आसान होगा ओलंपिक्स की तैयारियों के लिए उस तरह का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर खड़ा करना जिससे कि खेलों का बड़ा आयोजन हो सके।
And South Africa became the first team to win the Rugby World Cup 4 times when they beat New Zealand 12-11 on Saturday. South Africa's latest victory means the Springboks have won half of the 8 tournaments they have taken part in. South Africa were absent from the first 2 editions.
We knew it wasn't going to be easy. We had to put out a massive performance, given how the All Blacks have performed in the playoffs this far. We knew it was going to take a massive effort. Obviously, the red card to Sam Cane did change the dynamics of the game a bit, but we knew, we said at halftime, that the momentum was going to swing their way, and we had to find a way to absorb that pressure. And credit to the All Blacks, they put us under massive pressure, and our boys absorbed it.
The Premier League have another high-profile match between 2 of its biggest teams as Manchester United take on Manchester City's side in an important clash at Old Trafford on Sunday. Manchester City are at 2nd place and have been impressive so far this season. They eased past Young Boys by a comfortable 3-1 scoreline in the UEFA Champions League this week. After the win, they will be confident ahead of this fixture. On the other hand, Manchester United are at 8th place in the league table and have been inconsistent this season. The Red Devils defeated FC FC Copenhagen by a narrow 1-0 margin in their previous game. They will look to achieve a similar result this weekend. So the outcome of the latest encounter at Old Trafford is not a foregone conclusion, even without the air of uncertainty that hangs over both sides going into Sunday's game. Wong Hee-chan scored the equaliser as Wolverhampton Wanderers drew 2-2 with Newcastle United on Saturday. The hosts suffered a major blow when forward Pedro Neto was carried off with a hamstring injury. Newcastle have stretched their unbeaten streak to 6 games. They are 6th in Premier League with 17 points after 10 matches. Gary O'Neill's Wolves are unbeaten in the last 5 games. They are at 12th position with 12 points. Neto's injury put a damper on what was an otherwise entertaining end-to-end affair. The potential consequences of the Portuguese winger's loss obvious on the concerned faces of Wolves fans. Wong levelled in the 71st minute with the goal Newcastle could have avoided had keeper Nick Pope got a free kick rather than punched it out. It was redemption for the Korean forward after his rash first-half tackle led to a penalty for the visitors. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.